Yet another volatile session. Indian equities ended the day flat. The Sensex closing just below 35,000, while the Nifty managed to remain above 10,500. But the mid-cap stocks had a rough day, with the mid-cap index closing 0.5% lower. Back to the big story of the day. Days after the Central Information Commission directed the Reserve Bank, the Prime Minister's office and the Office of the Finance Minister to detail the action taken on a letter that was written by former RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan dated the 5th of February 2015, Rajan has made an important clarification to cnbc TV 18. The CIC, while mentioning the letter in its notice, had called it a list of high-profile fraud cases of non-performing assets. In an exclusive conversation with us, Rajan has stated, and I quote, "The list to the PMO was of frauds different from willful defaulters. I'm not aware of what progress has been made on that," end of quote. The former RBI governor has also spoken about the tussle on between the centre and the central bank. Batting for the RBI, Rajan said the Deputy Governor Viralacharya did not compare India with Argentina, but only highlighted the vulnerability of undermining a central bank. Rajan also said that a lot of unnecessary noise has been inserted into the RBI board deliberations in the recent past. He added that he wonders whether if this could be rolled back by taking away some of the people responsible for the additional noise. And lastly, Rajan has suggested that some elder statesmen must step in to resolve the current standoff between the RBI and the government. Take a look.
The RBI is something like a seatbelt. As a driver, the driver being the government, it has the possibility of not putting on its seatbelt. But of course, if you don't put on your seatbelt, you get into an accident. The accident can be quite severe. So most drivers listen to that annoying noise which comes when you don't put on your seatbelt and actually put on the seatbelt because they know it's for their own good. And historically, the relationship between the RBI and the government has been precisely this. And I think Dr. Acharya should be commended for just sounding a warning. I don't think that I've seen a lot of press saying he's comparing India to Argentina and so on. I don't think that was his intent in any way. I think he was just saying, let us be careful in these uncertain times. That's a warning that is important for us to heed, and heed it in the way it was given, respectfully, recognizing the fact that the RBI is not above the government. It is an arm, if you will, of the government, and saying, look, as a responsible part of the government, it is my duty to warn that there are certain issues if we go further. I think it's important for both sides to back off, and for some, hopefully, elder persons in the government as well as former RBI people to create a better understanding between the two. And it may, again, I say, require looking at what has prompted this recent angst and trying to deal with that problem. I worry that in the recent past, a lot of unnecessary noise has been inserted into the board deliberations, and I wonder if this is something that can be unwound or rolled back, perhaps by taking away some of the people responsible for the additional noise.
Well, that's the former RBI governor weighing in on the current tussle on between the Reserve Bank and the government. Meanwhile, sources in the government tell cnbc TV 18 that they are hopeful of reaching a resolution on various flashpoints at the central bank's next board meet. Let's go across to Sapna now for more on the matter. Sapna, so what's the expectation? Could there be a breakthrough on the 19th of November?
Well, the broad sense here in policy corridors is the fact that possibly a resolution may be reached in the next RBI board meeting slated for 19th of November. That's a broad sense. A resolution may be possible. Now, clearly, in the previous RBI board meet also on October 23rd, most of the issues were settled, but a decision had not been taken. The decision, of course, is to be taken by the RBI Central Board. So that's a call, basically. Voting is always an option. In any board meet, also decisions are taken by voting if required. So that's not really a huge concern, but the expectation is towards a resolution. How that happens is something that we have to wait and watch and see. Now, also another small clarification, the government nominees here, in this case, of course, the DA Secretary and the DFS Secretary, both of them, well, they do not have any voting rights on the RBI board. So that's something that we need to keep in mind. Apart from this, also in terms of the, Section 7, the discussions that have happened under Section 7, that again is between the RBI governor and the government. Section 7 has got nothing to do with the RBI board meet. That's another clarification that is coming in. Last but not the least, what are those issues? Well, most of them have been widely reported, but two points that I would like to highlight. That A, it has been a long-standing demand of the government that RBI should actually adopt a more liberal capital framework. Those matters are still under discussion, and of course the issue of Basel III norms. The government's pitch has been very clear. Basically don't have Basel III norms here in India which are higher than the global standards. Try and align them to the global standards. That's where the discussions have happened so far. But expectation is resolution in the October 19th board meet. Wait and watch and see how that really pans out.
Okay, Sapna, appreciate you joining us. While the government remains hopeful of a resolution of key issues at the Reserve Bank's next meeting, a report by news portal Money Life says Governor Patel may submit his resignation at that meeting or even ahead of that. Quoting unnamed sources, the report says that the government may throw in the towel as he is not only tired of the fight with the government, but it has also been impacting his health. So that is a Money Life report. We have not independently been able to corroborate that. Meanwhile, Information Commissioner M.S. Acharyulu has criticized the Reserve Bank for not disclosing the details of defaulters. In an exclusive conversation with cnbc TV 18's Rituparna Bhuyan, the Information Commissioner has said that the RBI's excuses, and he uses that term, for not disclosing defaulters list have already been rejected by both the Supreme Court as well as the Information Commission. The Information Commissioner did not spare the government either. He said the government should have at least stated what action had been taken against the high-profile fraud list that Raghuram Rajan had sent to the Prime Minister's office in February of 2015. Take a look.
The scope of your order, is it limited to only willful defaulters, disclosing names of willful defaulters, or is it also about disclosing names of all defaulters which the RBI has in terms of banking NPAs?
Yeah, that was the original question. He says anybody who is defaulted beyond 50 crore rupees of bank loans, all those names have to be listed. And
the petitioner, the original...
the petition was that.
Right.
The original RTA application demanded the loans defaulted beyond 50 crore of rupees.
Right.
That was the demand.
Right.
So willful defaulters or other defaulters have to be classified or clarified by the Reserve Bank of India or the concerned bank which gave the loans and which are managing those loans.
The RTI was filed in February and subsequently appeals were filed. What was the trigger for you to send a show cause notice now? Why was this notice sent, and if you can just tell us the background behind this?
The substantial part of the questions pertaining to Reserve Bank of India is what is the list of defaulters beyond 50 crore rupees? What action you have taken? This is the gist of the substantive portion of RBI.
Right.
The RTA application contains so many questions of so many, or at least couple of departments.
Right.
But these questions pertain to Reserve Bank of India.
Right.
Then I asked Reserve Bank of India, what is your response? Why did you not answer these questions?
This was asked during the appeal process?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
After admitting second appeal, in the first hearing, we have sent a notice to, there were interim orders in between. We have sent a notice to Reserve Bank of India asking whether they have given this information or not. If you are not given, are you giving the information? If not, what are your problems in giving information? They came back with a very lengthy response in which they raised several technical objections, legal objections, and the exceptions they have invoked that are available under Right to Information Act under Section 8. Then we studied naturally, we studied the response and found that all those excuses pleaded by Reserve Bank of India are already raised before Supreme Court of India and also raised before Information Commissioner earlier when Mr. Shailesh Gandhi was the Information Commissioner.
Right.
They were all rejected by the Commission and then Commission ordered in dozen of RTI second appeals to provide that information. Then
information regarding
it included this also.
Right.
It included willful defaulters, and inspection report.
Right.
The most important part of the earlier RTA question was inspection reports based on inspections conducted by Reserve Bank of India on the banks, including private or public sector banks.
And RBI, invoked the Section 8 saying that it cannot disclose.
Yeah. They say it's a commercially confidential information, fiduciary information. Banks confide in us and we can't disclose that, and economic interests of the country will be affected. All these grounds they have raised. And they went to the Supreme Court, up to Supreme Court, on all various matters in which Central Information Commission has directed them to disclose.
So this was regarding different RTI applications that happened in 2015.
Yes. Including this.
Right.
Including demand for list of willful defaulters, etc.
Right.
And inspection reports.
Right.
Then the Supreme Court specifically heard every point that was raised by the Standing Counsel of Reserve Bank of India. A senior counsel was representing the case, and it was meticulously argued, exhaustively argued, and all the grounds which I was considering in this second appeal were raised.
Well, last week, Prime Minister Modi announced the government would set up a digital platform which will get MSMEs in principle approval for loan proposals of up to 1 crore rupees in just 59 minutes. The platform is expected to boost lending to MSMEs. However, some questions are now being raised about the digital platform itself, which has been set up with the help of Capita World. Now, Capita World is a platform run by an Ahmedabad-based startup co-founded by Sidbi. Ritu Singh joins us now with more. Ritu, questions are being raised about Capita World's ownership as well as its antecedents and whether it has the requisite experience to be able to pull something like this off, and also the larger issue of data privacy. What are you picking up?
Fears over data privacy have emerged around the recently launched 59-minute loan service introduced by the Prime Minister last week, where small business owners who logged into the portal to submit their loan applications were spooked to find confirmation emails coming from a private domain, and that domain, we understand, is capitaworld.com. Now, this platform requires GST login details, KYC documentation, bank statements, business ownership details, information about directors, income tax returns, and other personal particulars for processing applications, which is worrying many of the applicants or prospective applicants. Why should a private enterprise have access to their data? How can they be sure that the information will not be misused? So a little research by our team here at cnbc TV 18 has revealed that this Ahmedabad-based Capita World was reportedly born out of the vision of Jinan Shah, a young CA and CFA, Aviru Chakravarti, who is a budding techie, and Vinod Modha, who is a seasoned chartered accountant with links with several large business houses. Now, the venture commenced operations only last year and has been working with NBFCs to speed up their credit assessment process. Now, questions were raised, therefore, around the capacity of the fledgling entity to manage the national loan assessment process, the privacy of data, and the reason for such an exclusive arrangement, and the revenues accruing to the platform for this monopoly service. So CNBC TV 18 also checked with sources in the government on whether these fears were legitimate, and sources pointed out that Capita World was majority, that is 56%, owned by public institutions like Sidbi, State Bank of India, and Bank of Baroda, and that there is a plan to increase this stake to 76% in due course. In fact, sources also look to allay fears around data privacy, saying that no third-party data will be stored on the platform. So yes, while public institutional shareholding could be comforting, and even if one is to assume that such ownership will protect the privacy of data, there are still many questions that remain unanswered, particularly around the process of selection of Capita World.
In a massive boost to the ruling Congress JDS alliance in Karnataka, the coalition has won 4 out of the 5 seats in the recently held by-polls. The by-polls were held for 3 Lok Sabha seats and 2 assembly constituencies. While the Congress JDS alliance has bagged 2 Lok Sabha seats and both the assembly constituencies with a significant margin, the BJP has put up a lackluster show and just won the Shiva Moga Lok Sabha seat, that too in a neck-and-neck fight. The big highlight of these polls is the BJP's loss in Bellary, the constituency which has voted the party since 2004 and is a stronghold of the mining barons, the Reddy brothers, has gone to the Congress this time.
You won a very good fight in Shimoga also. In the last election in 2014, Mr. Yediyurappa won by margin of more than 3 lakh votes. This time it has been reduced to 50 to 60,000 votes. That means to say the people of Karnataka, they are against BJP in Karnataka against Narendra Modi ji.
और ये एक संकेत है कि निश्चित रूप से जो हम बाई इलेक्शंस में हमारी जीत होती है तो उसका पूरा सरकार पे उतना प्रभाव नहीं पड़ता, लेकिन ये निश्चित है कि ये गठबंधन को लोग स्वीकार करेंगे या नहीं करेंगे, ऐसा जो बीजेपी का एक उनका कहना था वो आज वो झूठा साबित हुआ। गठबंधन ठीक ढंग से चला भी सकते हैं और लोगों का विश्वास भी इसमें है।
For time being, it is a setback for the Bharatiya Janata Party. The Congress and JDS elected from Ballari and that Jamkhandi with the influence of the money. Money has created a lot of influence on voters. So this win is not a real win for the JDS and Congress.
So that's the verdict there as far as the Karnataka by-polls are concerned. To discuss the impact, joining us now is political analyst and the national coordinator of the Lok Neeti Network, Sandeep Shastri. Sandeep, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Let me start by asking you about the key takeaways from this by-poll result. And I'm always cautious about trying to extrapolate what a by-poll result would mean for a national picture or even other states. But to your mind, what would be the significant takeaways, especially the kind of defeat that we've seen for the BJP in Bellary? Does this now legitimize this Congress-JDS alliance?
Shireen, it's important to reiterate the caveat that you added, that a by-poll has regional specific significance to a constituency, and from that we cannot extrapolate the trend for the entire state. Having said that, I would specifically mention three things that this by-poll indicate. Number one, I think it indicates that not only is political arithmetic important, I think electoral chemistry is also crucial. What the Congress and Janata Dal managed was not only strike an alliance among the leadership, but allow that alliance to percolate to the ground. And that, I think, is important. Secondly, I think if you really were to do a more deeper analysis, there has only been a shift of one seat, the critical Bellary seat. That seat which was held by the BJP has now moved to the Congress. And I think that Bellary victory is important because the Bellary victory signifies in some ways the internal factionalism within the BJP, which to a certain extent has cost that party the seat. And third and last, Shireen, I think this by-election shows that the Gathbandhan at the national level, if it has to make a splash, the only way it can do it is by focusing on specificities in every state of India. And I think what the Janata Dal and Congress have done in Karnataka is specifically that. And on the other hand, I think what the BJP needs to do, if it is to really assert its presence in states like Karnataka, is that the national leadership of the BJP and the state leadership needs to be in sync. Karnataka is one state where that sync is not clearly seen, and the damage of that is something clearly seen in these by-poll results.
Okay, so you're saying that the factionalism has also cost the BJP the seat in Bellary. But I want to pick up on the point that you made about how the Karnataka model of this JDS Congress combined could be something that could be followed through in other states. You talked about state specificities, Mr. Shastri. Now, this Mahagathbandhan, by all accounts, seems to be tough to get together. I mean, we've seen several false starts, so to speak. So do you believe a state-specific coalition approach is what the Congress and other opposition parties need to now focus on, given what we've seen with Karnataka?
I think if it is, given the fact of the need of their political survival, they have no other option. Let's also remember in Karnataka, many in the Congress feel that we conceded much more than what we should to the Janata Dal. But the fact that that concession was necessary in order to bring about the type of victory they have now brought about, and the Congress is thus able to take a lot of credit for what happened. So I think in that sense, there will be a lot of give and take. There will be a lot of bargaining. There will be a lot of negotiation. There will have to be a lot of compromise. But I think at the end of the day, if parties are looking at their political survival and to be able to challenge their opponent, I think coming up with such regional, state-specific alliances is inevitable for them.
Sandeep Shastri, always a pleasure. Appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. The big global story tonight, Americans have begun casting their vote in the midterm polls, which are being seen as a referendum on President Trump's 2 years in office. The combination of polls for the U.S. Congress, governorships and other statewide races that take place every 2 years are referred to as the midterms. Currently, Republicans in the majority in the House of Representatives and the Senate. These are the two chambers which make up the U.S. Congress. Let's go across now to our colleague Iman, joins us from the CNBC headquarters in New Jersey. Iman, hi. Thanks very much for joining us. So the voting process is underway. The markets have opened slightly lower. Nervousness, what are they factoring in?
Yeah, there's a lot to think about today. The polls are open here on the East Coast of the United States. We'll expect that to roll across the West Coast during the next couple of hours, and Election Day is in full swing. The expectation here is that Democrats, the out-of-power party, have an opportunity to possibly take the House of Representatives. The speculation is among sort of the Washington wise men types is that they don't have as much of a chance to take the United States Senate. But in 2016, we saw just how wrong some of those expectations can be. So I think we have to say that it's sort of all to play for at this point. We have no idea how the voters are going to vote going into today. Democrats would need 23 seats in the House of Representatives to take power, and they could bedevil the rest of the Trump term in office with investigations and bills that the president is going to have to veto if they have the majority in the House of Representatives. In the Senate, there's a 2-vote net gain needed for Democrats to win there. You'd think if it's only 2 seats that need to change hands, the Senate might be the easier play for Democrats, but in actuality, the Senate's likely to be a little bit harder because there are a lot of Democrats this year who are running in states that President Trump won back in 2016 by large margins. So Democrats running in traditionally Republican states, they're not expected to have a big day today. But again, those expectations can be so very misleading. So a lot to look at today and a lot of uncertainty. The expectation is on Wall Street, markets might tread water ahead of the election results, waiting for some indication of how things are going to go here in the United States, guys.
Even a quick follow-up question, and you're absolutely right to caveat the fact that expectations and polls have gotten it wrong and gotten it horribly wrong in the recent past. But if it were to be a Democrat victory, what would that mean, especially from an economic perspective, in terms of the various reforms or the measures that the Trump administration has taken forward?
Well, I think if Democrats take the House of Representatives, the first thing you can do is go to your list and just scratch off the idea of tax cuts 2.0. The Republicans have been talking about an additional tax cut above and beyond the one that they passed last year in Washington if they retain the majority in the House of Representatives. That goes away if Democrats take power. But because President Trump remains in office for 2 more years, if Democrats take power on Capitol Hill, they're not going to be able to pass a lot of legislation and get it signed into law because the president simply isn't going to sign legislation coming from Democrats that he doesn't like. So the biggest impact, I think, will be in terms of investigations into the president. Democrats could take subpoena power on Capitol Hill and be able to find out what are in the president's tax returns, some things about the way the president's been profiting personally from the presidency. If that's been happening, they're going to dig into that as well. And then all of the firings and tumult that we've seen in the White House, Democrats might be able to subpoena some of the documents related to all of that as well. So I think this could be a very tricky 2 years for the Trump White House if Democrats do get subpoena power up on Capitol Hill, because they'll be fending off a lot of investigations, and Democrats plan to be very aggressive if they get the gavels.
Days after the Central Information Commission directed the Reserve Bank, the Prime Minister's office and the Office of the Finance Minister to explain the action taken on the letter written by former RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan on the 5th of February 2015, Rajan has made an important clarification to CNBC TV 18. The CIC, while mentioning the letter in its notice, had called it a list of high-profile fraud cases of non-performing assets. In our exclusive conversation, Rajan has stated that the letter he sent to the PMO was a list of frauds and not of willful defaulters. He also added that he was not aware of what action was taken by the government on the basis of the letter. In fact, talking to CNBC TV 18 on the very same issue, the Information Commissioner, M. Sridhar Acharyu, has said that the CIC wants the government to at least disclose the action taken on the information provided by Rajan. Listen in.
Raghuram Rajan has furnished a list to the PMO,
right.
And then in the same year the order of Supreme Court came that you have to disclose what action you have taken on these defaulters. Yes?
This is the 2015
yes.
same order?
That's what.
Right.
Then there is a similar RT application again filed.
Mm-hmm.
So what more you want? How many RTs you want? How many times Supreme Court has to decide that you have to disclose this information? Investigation process pending is definitely a defense. But to what? Regarding the conclusion of the investigation. But can't you share with the people that how much of loan was defaulted? Mm-hmm. That is the basis on which you are investigating now.
Joining us now to take this discussion forward is the spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party, Ghanshyam Tiwari, editorial director of the Business Standard, A.K. Bhattacharya, Congress spokesperson Sanjay Jha, and the BJP spokesperson, head of the economic cell, Gopal Krishna Agarwal. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the program. Mr. Agarwal, let me start by asking you, and there are several separate issues here, so I am going to attempt to address them one by one so as to not confuse them. Let's go to the issue of Raghuram Rajan's letter to the Prime Minister's office on the 5th of February 2015. Now, Raghuram Rajan telling us that this was a list of fraud and not willful defaulters, and he doesn't know what action has been taken post his letter. The CIC, in its order dated the 2nd of November, and you just heard the man whose order it is on the channel saying that why hasn't the government disclosed what action has been taken? Fine, don't disclose the names, but at least tell us, where is the investigation, if at all there is an investigation? Where does that letter, what is the action that has been taken basis Raghuram Rajan's letter? Gopal Agarwal.
The issue is, I would not like to comment between what is happening between the Chief Information Commission and the RBI. These are two independent bodies, and their autonomy and independence is equally important for us as well as for the country. So for RBI and CIC, they have to answer among themselves. With regard to CIC's statement that what action government has taken with regard to frauds, etc., mentioned by Mr. Raghuram Rajan, the issue is well within the purview of everybody that already government has taken, IBC code has been implemented, the NCLT process has been installed, Benami Property Act, which was just lying passed for 27 years.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir.
These are the actions against the fraud.
I understand that that's... No, I understand that that is the larger attempt of the government to try and initiate reforms to address the larger issue of corruption, solvency, insolvency, etc. But this is a specific question, sir, and there have been several queries that have gone to the government with respect to this letter written by Raghuram Rajan to the Prime Minister's office in 2015. Now the former governor is making it very clear that the list is fraud, not even willful defaulters, so the question of confidentiality agreements and so on and so forth perhaps will not apply here. Why has the government not given any information on what the former governor wrote to the government about? It's a simple question, sir.
No, Shireen, who has not given any information to whom? The question, Finance Minister has categorically said that there are deliberation, discussions, and there are letter exchange between the government and the RBI. Those are not made part of the public debate. It's a financial integrity of the whole system that is at stake, and a lot happens on the ethics and other things. The final decisions are only conveyed.
Sanjay Jha, quick comment on Raghuram Rajan's comments as well as the CIC order, specifically on this issue. Don't confuse this matters with the larger issue pertaining to the RBI.
No, I think, it is a grave manifestation of the kind of opacity that is there in the government. Can you imagine, Shirin, that a letter written by a former central bank governor to the highest political executive in this country on people who have committed bank frauds or even in the list of willful defaulters? I mean, at the end of the day, that is a matter of public interest. I mean, this is taxpayers' money. Somebody is swindling the taxpayers' money is something that the Prime Minister should be more concerned about than maybe even an ordinary citizen or another ordinary politician. But this is a clear attempt, as I believe, to protect certain very high-profile people. I'm going to link it, Shirin, to the larger investigations that you don't hear about, the Panama Papers or the Paradise Papers. This is why we continuously keep highlighting the point that there is a lot of crony capitalism in this government. Raghuram Rajan is on record. Now the CIC is openly questioning this government, and they're coming out with the most duplicitous argument. I mean, I don't know what argument is the BJP spokesperson making here. I mean, it is on a very fragile ground. I mean, this is a matter of interest, by the way, Mr. Agarwal, not just for your party. It is not just about media and the opposition. I think every citizen in this country has a right to ask you, why are you not going public with this information? What are you trying to hide?
Ghanshyam Temari, very quickly, your response on the Rajan letter.
Well, first and foremost, a very happy Diwali to you, everyone on the panel and everyone of your viewers. Diwali is about inspiration of victory of truth and the aspiration of prosperity. This letter is about frauds, people who committed frauds on the taxpayers, on the banks. It was submitted to the PMO. After 3 years of this letter getting submitted to PMO, the primary action would have been that these fraudsters would have been in jail. That today Raghuram Rajan says he does not know what action has been taken means that no action has been taken, because this action had to be exemplary. I'm saying because the action had to be exemplary given the nature of frauds, scale of frauds, and it had to be visible. It had to be individualized. That hasn't happened. PMO sits on this letter. They try to bank on the confusion between fraudsters and willful defaulters. Did not speak a word means that they did not take action.
Okay. AKB, you've heard what the politicians have had to say on the debate. Yeah. You've heard what Raghuram Rajan has said, as well as the CIC orders, sir. On balance, your quick comment on this one, sir.
Well, it is very clear that we do not know enough on this matter. But what we do know from what Mr. Rajan has said and what the CIC has said are the following two things. One is that the government had, from Mr. Rajan's statement, had a list of fraudsters, bank fraudsters with them, and from the CIC statement that the action taken report should be made public. Now, at what stage is that operation within the government on finding out or detecting the fraud? At what level is it there? 3 years have gone by. So it's actually probably incumbent on the government, as well as these notices apparently to the current RBI governor, so to make clear that what is the state of investigation into those fraud cases. So I think it's a very fair demand on the part of CIC to make that public.
AKB, let's now talk about the larger issue of what former Governor Rajan has addressed, and that is the current state of relationship between the government as well as the state bank, as well as the central bank. Now, there's a lot being placed on this board meeting that takes place on the 19th of November. What do you make of it? Because if I look at what Mr. Rajan is saying, he says the RBI board does not take operational decisions. The RBI board focuses on broader strategy, ensures good governance. He also goes on to say that a lot of unnecessary noise has been inserted in board deliberations in the recent past. In fact, he goes as far as to say that if there were a way of being able to unwind the decisions that have led to the noise in the board meeting at the level of the RBI, it would perhaps be for the best. What do you make of that, and what are your expectations from the 19th of November?
Well, once the government has sent out a notice to the RBI governor under Section 7 for consultations, which is the first part of the requirement under Section 7 before the government can issue directions, I would imagine that the arrow has left the bow, in a sense that the government will have to discuss and consult with the RBI governor on the issues that they have raised. Now, and I am expecting that the board meeting on 19th of November, the government will continue to highlight the demands or the expectations, government's expectations that have been raised in those letters to the RBI governor at the board meeting. I think the government is very clear that it wants a discussion with the RBI board, and the RBI board has not just the government nominees, it has got many other representatives, including some leading industrialists like like Mr. Chandrasekharan of TCS, Mr. Dilip Shangvi of Sun Pharma, and Chandra so there is a wide range of people. So I think the government is very clear, from what I could make out from the latest reports, is that on 19th of November, the government would like to impress upon the RBI management that all the deputy governors and the governor are on the board. So I think government representatives will make a case for the RBI management to listen to the points that they are making, which were mentioned in the October 10 letter under Section 7 that was sent to the RBI governor. So I think it will be a kind of a stormy meeting, like the one that you saw on 23rd of October. But the situation is quite tense. It's a tense situation. You haven't seen this kind of a thing in the past. So I do not know how it will really pan out. It all depends on how the RBI governor takes the tenor of that meeting. So it's not very clear what will happen after November 19th. But what is clear is till November 19th, on that day, the government will once again impress upon the RBI board and the RBI management particularly to listen to what it has said in those three letters.
Gopal Agarwal, Sanjay Jha, A.K. Bhattacharya and Ghanshyam Tiwari, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18.
Straight to our Diwali special now. Celebrations around the Festival of Lights have kick-started across the country. But has this Diwali brought cheer to small traders as well? Well, CNBC TV 18 travelled to various trading hubs to find out. Here are some of those reports.
Online retailers have had a fantastic Diwali, with sales for the month of October being thrice as much as they are in non-festive months. But how are the good old-fashioned offline retail stores doing? We've come to a white goods store in Mumbai's Andheri area, and we're going to find out which products are selling and how their Diwali has been this far.
Onam precedes Diwali, and it's usually a good precursor of how Diwali sales are going to be. This year that was a bit of a washout because of the floods in Kerala. But overall business has been good so far, and we are currently running at around 20% plus over last year.
Air conditioners have been the surprise outliers of this festive season. You see, during the summer season, because temperatures were colder than expected, AC sales were not very high. However, October was a very hot month across states across India, because of which AC sales are about 80% higher than they were last year. You might think that everybody is now buying cell phones like these online. However, cell phone sales now account for 40% of total sales in a store like this, compared to 25% last year.
Essentially, where we score over online is the guy can, take a considered call. So he can play with multiple devices and decide which one works for him.
So 20 to 22% rise in sales this festive season versus last year. That's not bad considering the start that this festive season got off to because of Onam being washed out due to floods in Kerala, and also the import duty on electronics manufactured in other countries. For these retailers, it is a happy Diwali. In Mumbai, Kevin Lee.
Well, a lot has changed this Diwali. Your firecrackers being replaced with e-crackers, Chinese lamps coming in place of your traditional diyas. But one thing which hasn't changed so far are these gleaming festive lights. came to this market exactly a year ago, it was still reeling from the pain of demonetization as well as GST. But today, a year later, just by the look and feel of this particular space, it certainly looks more busy. But of course, let's just understand from the shop owners here on whether or not anything materially has changed in terms of consumer sentiment.
ये टाइम पे बहुत पब्लिक आ रही है अगले साल से, और उसके अगले साल से बहुत बेटर आ रही है। इन मोर देन 30-40% धंधा ज़्यादा है। अगले साल चाइना का माल आता था ना, तो 2-3 दिन रहता था और धीरे धीरे जाता था, मगर अभी जो इंडियन का माल है वो फास्ट जा रहा है, क्योंकि चाइना का माल बिल्कुल नहीं आ रहा है। उसके हिसाब से इंडियन के माल में डिमांड ज़्यादा है।
From last year, this year the demand is, I think, much better. Because last year I think the demonetized was there, so people they don't have the capacity and the capability of money. So this year, alhamdulillah, they are demanding for these items. Compared to last Diwali, 50% I think there is more demand in these items.
Already अभी खरीदी बहुत अच्छी भी हो रही है, क्योंकि क्या है, गए टाइम में तो अपना नोटबंदी थी बराबर, पर ये टाइम भी थोड़ा पब्लिक को उत्साह भी हुआ है और ऑलरेडी काफ़ी सारा आइटम भी अच्छे आए, नए नए आइटम भी आए और चल रहे हैं और अच्छी बिक्री हो रही है। ये टाइम कम से कम 30 से 35% बिक्री बहुत अच्छी भी हुई है और इंडियन आइटम भी डिमांड निकली है और अच्छी आइटम चल रही है। ऑलरेडी चाइना आइटम कम आने से इंडियन आइटम का डिमांड बढ़ गया और इंडियन आइटम खरीद भी रहे और थोड़ा महंगा पड़ता है पर टिकने में अच्छा है, वो हिसाब से चल रहा है और सामने डिमांड भी लेते हैं कि इंडियन देंगे तो अच्छी बात है।
Well, certainly one of the best Diwalis which the Lower Chawl light market could have hoped for, and not one but multiple reasons responsible, be it the improved consumer sentiment or the ban on Chinese imports which has reduced the shelf life of Indian manufactured lights. But as I said, everything responsible towards improving the demand here from this market and truly making it a happy Diwali.
Now let's get you the latest installment from our special series Election Exchange. Now in poll-bound Chhattisgarh, livelihood colleges have been beneficial for Naxal-affected and development-starved southern regions of the state. With less than a week to go for the first phase of polling, Archana Shukla visited one of those livelihood colleges to understand the aspirations of first-time voters. Take a look.
In Antagarh, in the Naxal stronghold of Kanker district, we stopped by an industrial training institute and livelihood college. For nearly 300 students learning various skills and almost all first-time voters, aspirations are soaring high. क्या उम्र है आप लोग की? वोटिंग करेंगे इस बार इलेक्शन में? हाँ?
जरूर पहली बार वोटिंग करेंगे।
हाँ?
पहली बार वोटिंग करेंगे।
पहली बार वोटिंग करेंगे तो एक्साइटेड हैं उसको लेकर?
जरूर। हाँ है ना। हाँ? तो है पहली बार वोटिंग करेंगे मन में।
क्या आपके मन में सवाल हैं या क्या चीज़ें हैं जो आपके मन में चल रही हैं जब आप वोटिंग करने जाएंगे कि क्या चाहिए सरकार से?
जैसे इंडिया तो पूरा नौजवानों का देश माना जाता है इंडिया।
बिल्कुल।
तो उसके नौजवानों के लिए और ज़्यादा कुछ करे, ऐसा हम चाहेंगे सरकार से।
हाँ, जैसे यहाँ लोकल यहाँ पे कोई प्राइवेट जॉब नहीं कर पाते या फिर कोई बिजनेस वगैरह जो हम लोग को मिल जाए सुविधा, हम लोग जॉब कर सकें, अपने काम वाम कर सकें, ऐसा।
अच्छा। जैसे यहाँ से बाहर जाते हैं तो उसके लिए भी यहाँ पे कुछ फैक्ट्री वगैरह जैसे
अगर लग
सकते हैं तो हम लोगों को भी थोड़ा सुविधा होगा। यहाँ के मतलब अंदरूनी गाँव है उनको भी थोड़ा
और आराम
आएगा और आगे बढ़ेंगे उन लोग।
चलिए आप अपना स्कूल कॉलेज दिखाएंगे हमको? हाँ, चलिए। यहाँ पर हॉस्टल भी है?
हाँ, हॉस्टल है।
अच्छा, नौकरी वगैरह के क्या प्रावधान है यहाँ पर? आप लोग यहाँ से ही कुछ प्लेसमेंट करवाते हैं या फिर उनको खुद से खोजना पड़ता है?
प्लेसमेंट का सुविधा है लेकिन आते नहीं कंपनी वाले लोग यहाँ पर।
कंपनी वाले क्यों नहीं आते? मतलब क्या परेशानी है वहाँ पर?
अब क्या मालूम है, मैं अंदरूनी क्षेत्र है, क्या सोचते हैं तो उतना तो हम नहीं बोल सकते। बाकी तो अपने मेहनत से बहुत बच्चे लोग लग गए, कुछ रेलवे में चले गए, उनका ज़मीन उसमें आया था तो फिर रेलवे डिपार्टमेंट ने उनको प्लेसमेंट दे दिया। कुछ भिलाई स्टील प्लांट में गए हैं।
अच्छा,
सब गए।
यहाँ पर जिस तरह का इलाका है नक्सली प्रभावित कहा जाता है, डेवलपमेंट कुछ देखा है आप लोगों ने यहाँ पर?
पहले से थोड़ा बहुत डेवलपमेंट है यहाँ पर। अब अंदर वाले लोग मतलब नक्सली लोग उतना यहाँ पर नहीं है, प्रकोप नहीं है। पहले जैसे नहीं रह गया अभी, क्योंकि हर क्षेत्र में जवान लोग तैनात रहते हैं तो कम हो गया पहले। जी।
Many of the students here are from underdeveloped villages in the region. They have had to compete with students from towns with better access to facilities to get here and take up courses that will make them tailors, electrician and diesel mechanics, among others. For all of them, finding a job is a priority.
वोट देंगे इस बार?
जी बिल्कुल।
हाँ
जी।
उत्साह है वोट देने के लिए?
हाँ बिल्कुल, और देना भी चाहिए क्योंकि वो अपना अधिकार है और उसको सबने पालन भी करना चाहिए।
यहाँ नौकरी वगैरह मिलने का क्या प्रावधान है? आप लोग जब यहाँ से पढ़ाई करके निकलेंगे तो आगे क्या काम करेंगे?
अगर नौकरी मिलेगा तो गवर्नमेंट नौकरी करेंगे, नहीं मिलेगा तो स्वराज्य करेंगे, खुद से एक दुकान खोलकर।
Kumari Manshila is one such aspirant. She is the first girl from her village who has left to study. She's training to be an electrician and incidentally comes from a village that has never had electricity. But she hopes that will change.
गांव में किस चीज़ की कमी है?
सड़क की कमी है और लाइट की भी कमी है।
आपके गांव में बिजली नहीं है?
नहीं है।
आप यहाँ इलेक्ट्रिकल की ट्रेनिंग कर रही हैं?
जी।
ये बताइए, आपके गांव में आपने कभी बिजली नहीं देखी? स्कूल में जब आप पढ़ती थी तब?
नहीं, जब आमा बेड़ा पढ़ने गई थी तो देखी लाइट।
क्यों इलेक्ट्रिकल की पढ़ाई करना चाहती हैं आप?
कुछ यहाँ से सीखकर गांव में जाकर सुधार करूं।
Well, she can be the epitome of hope for girls like these and other children from very interior villages in this district, Kanker and other such Naxal-affected regions. These children are now making way out of their villages onto these ITI centers and skill centers to find some skills, get on their own feet, make a living and do something for their own villages. Well, that's a start, and all these children who are first time voters have lots of hopes from the government here who can provide them with jobs that can help them develop themselves as well as their societies.